What happens when one of Hollywood's favorite stars comes face to face with one of TV's boldest talk show hosts? Today, we're breaking down a shocking moment that left everyone speechless, when Julia Roberts visited The View and the interview took a wild turn. This is the story of how Joy Behar pushed America's sweetheart too far, leading to one of the most intense exits ever seen on daytime TV. Be sure to subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments because this one will leave you stunned. The stage lights were shining brightly as Julia Roberts walked onto the View set. Her famous smile lit up the room while the crowd cheered loudly. She looked stunning in a long emerald dress that made her red hair shine, waving to the audience as she took her place beside the panel. Whoopi Goldberg greeted her kindly, along with Sarah Haynes and Sunny Hostin. But Joy Behar's energy felt different that day. While the other hosts seemed thrilled to welcome Julia, Joy leaned back in her seat with a slight grin, her eyes twinkling with something that felt like trouble. "Julia, welcome back to The View," Whoopi said warmly. "It's always great to have you here." Julia smiled. "Thank you for having me," she replied, her cheerful laugh filling the room like it always does. "I love being here. It's always such a good time." The interview started off light, with Sarah asking about her new movie and Sunny asking about her family. Julia answered each question with her usual charm, sharing stories that made everyone laugh. The other hosts smiled and nodded along. But Joy stayed quiet, watching Julia closely, almost like she was waiting. "You know, Julia," Joy finally said, interrupting Sarah mid-sentence, "I've followed your career for a long time. Don't you ever get bored of playing the same role again and again?" The room went silent as the question hung in the air. Julia's smile faded for a moment before she let out a soft chuckle. "I'm not sure what you mean, Joy," Julia answered carefully. "I've tried to take on many different roles over the years." "Oh, come on," Joy pushed, leaning forward with a grin that didn't feel friendly. "The pretty woman, the love interest, the cheerful girl next door. It's the same thing every time. Don't you think audiences deserve something more from someone with your so-called talent?" Whoopi shifted in her seat, clearly feeling the tension. "Joy, I think Julia's shown a lot of range in her work," she tried to add, but Joy wasn't done. "Let's be real here. You've built a whole career on being America's sweetheart," she said. "But what happens when America doesn't want sweet anymore? What happens when people want something real?" Julia sat up straighter, and for the first time since the show began, her smile disappeared. "I think my work speaks for itself, Joy. I've always tried to be real in every role I take." "Real?" Joy laughed sharply. "Is that what you call it? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you've just been playing the same version of yourself for 30 years. The other hosts exchanged nervous looks as things got more uncomfortable. Sunny tried to switch the topic. "Julia, let's talk about your next projects. I heard you have some exciting things coming up." But Joy didn't want to change the subject. "No, let's talk about something else," she said, her voice becoming more intense. "Let's talk about privilege. Let's talk about how easy it is to keep up a perfect image when you've never faced real hardship." Julia's eyes narrowed. "Excuse me?" she asked. "You heard me," Joy replied, clearly enjoying the moment. "You've had it easy, Julia. Born beautiful, discovered early, handed success. What do you know about struggle? What do you know about the real world the rest of us live in?" The studio went quiet again, everyone realizing this wasn't a normal interview anymore. Julia took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "Joy, I think you're making some very unfair guesses about my life," she said firmly. "You don't know anything about what I've been through. Don't I?" Joy snapped back. "Because from my view, your hardest choice is which mansion to stay in." Whoopi tried to step in, sounding more serious now. "Okay, Joy, I think we should." "No, Whoopi." Joy cut her off. "I think it's time someone asked the tough questions. It's time someone called out this perfect image for what it is, a well-crafted lie." Julia's face lost all its color, but her voice stayed steady. I've never claimed to be perfect, Joy. I've been honest about my struggles and the ways I've grown. Have you really? Joy asked. Or have you only told the public the clean, polished version your team wants them to hear? When was the last time we saw the real Julia Roberts, not the version made to sell movies? The tension in the room was at a breaking point. The camera crew subtly moved their positions, sensing that something major was unfolding. The other host sat frozen, clearly unsure how to step in as the conversation veered dangerously off course. This wasn't an interview anymore. It was turning into a public takedown. Julia took a breath, her voice tight but composed. I think there's a misunderstanding here, she said. I came today to talk about my work, to connect with your audience, not to be attacked. Joy leaned back in her seat, smiling like she was pleased with the rising tension. Oh, so this is an attack now? I thought this was just honest conversation. Isn't that what talk shows are supposed to be? Honest? Julia's calm began to crack. There's a difference between being honest and being cruel, Joy, she said. There's a difference between tough questions and questions meant to hurt. Hurt? Joy laughed again, her voice sharp and cutting. If you're hurt by a few real observations, maybe you're not as strong as you pretend to be. The words landed hard, and Julia's face turned red. The audience held its breath. All eyes were on Julia, waiting to see how she would respond to such a bold insult. Strong, Julia repeated softly, her voice barely above a whisper. You want to talk about strength, Joy? Okay. Strength is sitting here, listening to you tear me down for no reason but your own amusement. Strength is choosing not to respond to your cruelty with more cruelty. Joy's face lit up with a kind of glee. Oh, now we're getting somewhere, she said. There's that spark I knew was hiding under all that sugar and smiles. Tell me, Julia, how does it feel to finally drop the act? This isn't an act, Julia said, her voice rising slightly now. This is me doing my best to keep some dignity while you go after me without cause. Unprovoked? Joy scoffed. Everything I've said is fair game. You're a public figure, sweetheart. You put yourself out there. You open yourself to criticism. Sarah looked like she wanted to disappear under the table. Maybe we should take a short break, she offered weakly. But Joy wasn't stopping. No breaks, she said, brushing the idea aside. We're just getting started. Let's talk about your marriages. What is it now, 3? That's not exactly the fairy tale you like to show off, is it? The audience gasped. Whoopi's face showed pure shock. Joy, that's out of line, she said firmly. Is it? Joy challenged. She talks about love in every interview, stars in movie after movie about soulmates, happy endings. But her own history says otherwise, doesn't it? Julia's hands were visibly shaking now, from either rage or pain, no one could tell for sure. My relationships are personal, she said sharply. They have nothing to do with this interview. Oh, but they have everything to do with who you are, Joy argued. They show the gap between your image and the truth. They show that maybe you're not the romance expert you pretend to be in your films. I've never claimed to be an expert at anything, Julia said through clenched teeth. I'm an actress. I play roles. That's what I do. Joy laughed again, the same cold, mocking laugh. Right. You play roles. But the problem is, you never stop. Even now, even here, you're still performing. When do we get to meet the real Julia Roberts? Julia's voice shook with emotion. You want something real? Fine. Here it is. This pain you're causing me right now, this humiliation you're forcing me to feel in front of millions, that's real. Good, Joy replied, satisfied. Finally, some truth. Finally, something genuine instead of your usual polished charm. Sunny looked horrified. Joy, what is this even about? She asked, clearly upset. Julia is our guest. Our guest who's been lying to the public for decades. Joy snapped. Our guest who's made a career by pretending to be something she's not. Fake? Julia's voice cracked on the word. You think I'm fake? You think everything I've done, everything I've worked for is fake? I think you're a product. Joy replied coldly. You're a well-crafted brand, made to sell movies and magazines. The real Julia Roberts, whoever that is, got lost a long time ago. The cruelty in Joy's tone was impossible to miss now, and even the camera crew looked uneasy. Julia stared at her for a long moment, her eyes brimming with tears. You know what, Joy? She said quietly. You're right about one thing. There is a real Julia Roberts. And that real person is telling me she doesn't have to sit here and be treated like this. Abuse? Joy scoffed. Now it's abuse to ask questions? No, Julia said, standing up slowly. But it is abuse to try to embarrass someone. To try to make them feel small and worthless. And I won't let anyone do that to me, not anymore. Joy's face changed for just a second, like she was beginning to realize she might have gone too far. Oh, come on, Julia. Don't be so dramatic. Sit down, she said, brushing it off. This isn't a conversation, Julia replied firmly. This is a takedown. You're using your platform to attack me, and I won't be part of it anymore. The other hosts looked shocked. Whoopi stood too, trying to calm things down. Julia, please don't leave. We can figure this out. But Julia had already reached for her mic, starting to take it off. No, Whoopi. Some things can't be fixed. Some moments go too far for an apology. This is one of those moments. Joy, realizing she might be losing control, changed her tone. Look, Julia. If I hurt your feelings, that wasn't my goal. I just wanted to have a real talk. Julia turned to her, and the pain in her eyes was clear. Joy, everything about this has been on purpose. Every question, every comment, every attempt to make me look fake, you planned this. You didn't want a real talk. You wanted to tear me down. That's not true, Joy replied, but her voice wasn't strong anymore. Isn't it? Julia asked. Then tell me why every single thing you've said has been meant to hurt. Tell me why you ignored the other hosts when they tried to bring this back to something positive. Tell me why you seemed to enjoy watching me squirm. Joy was quiet. For the first time in the whole interview, she looked unsure. The studio was completely silent, the crowd frozen as they watched something they'd never seen before. I'm a journalist, Joy finally said in a weak voice. It's my job to ask tough questions. No, Julia answered calmly but firmly. You're not acting like a journalist. You're acting like a bully. And I've had enough bullies in my life. I won't sit here and let you keep doing this. The word bully hit Joy hard. Her face turned red, and her hands clenched. She seemed shaken for the first time. The room felt heavy with tension, like no one dared to breathe. I'm not a bully, Joy snapped. I've done this job for years, and no one's ever said that about me. Then maybe it's time someone did, Julia said, holding back tears. Maybe someone needed to remind you that being bold doesn't mean being cruel. Joy's jaw tightened. You want to talk about cruel? Let's talk about lying to millions of people. Let's talk about pretending to be someone you're not. And who exactly am I pretending to be? Julia asked, her tone sharper now. What lie do you think I've been telling by trying to bring joy to people through my work? You pretend to be perfect, Joy said quickly. You act like you have it all figured out. You smile like life is easy and wonderful while real people are out here struggling. Julia blinked, confused. So, it bothers you that I try to be positive? It bothers me because it's fake. Joy snapped. Life isn't a movie, Julia. It's not a romantic comedy. Life is hard. It's messy. It's painful. And when you pretend it's not, you make people feel worse, not better. The other host stayed frozen in place. Whoopi looked like she was trying to think of a way to end this disaster, while Sarah and Sunny looked uncomfortable and upset. Julia stayed quiet for a few seconds, then finally spoke with a new kind of strength in her voice. You're right about one thing, Joy. Life is hard. Life is painful. Life doesn't always make sense, she said. Joy looked surprised, clearly not expecting her to agree. But life is also beautiful, Julia went on. It has moments of love, of wonder, of hope. And if my work, even if you think it's fake, helps someone hold on to that, even for a little while, then I'm proud of it. Joy rolled her eyes. That's just naive. But her voice didn't sound so confident anymore. No, Julia said more firmly. What's naive is believing that tearing people down makes you more real. What's naive is thinking that being bitter is somehow more honest than being hopeful. Joy's face was turning redder with each word. Don't you dare lecture me about being real, she snapped. Don't act like you're better than me. I'm not saying I'm better than anyone, Julia replied, now starting to unclip her microphone. But I am saying I won't be part of this mess anymore. What this is, Joy said sharply, is reality. This is what it looks like when someone finally calls you out. Julia paused for a moment, her hand still on the microphone, then looked Joy straight in the eye. You want to talk about reality, Joy? Reality is that you've spent nearly 20 minutes trying to break someone down, not to help, not to learn, but for your own satisfaction. She took a step back from the table. Reality is using your seat here not to uplift or challenge in a good way, but to hurt. And that's not your job. I was doing my job, Joy argued, but her voice cracked a little. Your job is to host, to ask questions, not to attack, Julia replied. Your job is to make this show worth watching, not by tearing people down, but by showing real conversations, not cruelty. Whoopi finally spoke again, her voice calm but tense. Julia, please, let's all take a breath. Maybe we can still fix this. Julia shook her head gently. No, Whoopi. Some things aren't fixable. I came here expecting a kind and open chat about my career, about who I am. Instead, I walked into an ambush led by someone who clearly enjoys watching others hurt. Suddenly, Joy stood up, her chair screeching across the floor. You know what? Fine. Go. Leave. That's what people like you do, you run when it gets uncomfortable. Julia stopped and turned back one last time, a sad look on her face. No, Joy. People like me choose not to stay in places that reward meanness. People like me don't give space to behavior that's just plain wrong. Wrong? Joy nearly shouted. I asked real questions about a public figure who makes millions acting like America's sweetheart. And there it is, Julia said softly. You said it. You think I'm just pretending. You think all of this, my work, my kindness, even my presence here, is fake. But maybe what that really shows is how you see the world, not how I live in it. Joy opened her mouth like she wanted to respond, but nothing came out. Around the studio, not a single person moved. The room was filled with silence, heavy and still. Julia slowly started walking toward the edge of the stage, her mic now completely removed. For what it's worth, Joy, she said gently, I hope someday you understand why you needed to do this. I hope you figure out what this really was about. Don't walk away from me, Joy called out. We're not done. Julia turned back one final time. Yes, we are, she said simply. We are very much done. And with that, Julia Roberts walked off the set of The View, leaving behind a silent audience, a panel of stunned hosts, and Joy Behar, still standing, breathing hard, clearly shocked by what had just happened. The cameras kept rolling as Joy slowly sat back down, the weight of her actions setting in. She had crossed the line with one of Hollywood's biggest stars. And now she had to face the fallout in front of millions of viewers. Whoopi cleared her throat, looking directly into the camera. "We'll be right back after this break," she said. But her voice had lost its usual ease. The mood was different now, heavy and serious. The moment couldn't be taken back, and everyone in that room knew it. As the show cut to commercial, the audience stayed seated, whispering, buzzing with shock and disbelief. They hadn't come to see a heated fight. They came for a regular celebrity chat, but what they got was one of the most intense live confrontations in daytime TV history. So, what do you think of what just happened? Did Joy Behar push things too far, or was she just doing her job? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And be sure to subscribe for more unbelievable moments like this, ones you won't want to miss.